Well, it's Saturday and it is Wrestling Night in America here on the PWTorch YouTube page and PWTorch.com. Thanks everybody for tuning in after the Royal Rumble from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I am Pro Wrestling Torch columnist Greg Parks here leading the way here on January 31st, 2026, talking all about the beginning of the road to WrestleMania. And along with me to do that here today is PWTorch.com contributor Kurt Cadet. Kurt, welcome to Wrestling Night in America tonight. Glad to have you along with us.
Glad to be here. And yes, definitely, it's been a while since I've done one of these. I think the last time I did one of these was for Evolution, the post show for that. And I got to say, just like Evolution, this turned out to be a very good show tonight. And I can't wait to dive into all of it.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to talk about it here. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we really encourage you to join in on the chat. There's a lot of people in there already, it looks like, giving their opinions on the show. I'll try to monitor that and pick out some interesting ones that we can talk about as the show goes on. So make sure that you are making your presence felt and your voices heard in the chat. So, Kurt, let's start. We'll go through match by match. We'll give our opinion on the show, but let's start with the winners of the Royal Rumble matches, because as was explained on the show here today, the winners would get a championship match and be able to main event WrestleMania, although the term main event is a little bit flexible about what exactly that entails. But Liv Morgan winning the Women's Royal Rumble and Roman Reigns winning the Men's Royal Rumble. Let's start with the women and Liv Morgan. She comes back from injury, reinserts herself back into the Judgment Day. There was thought that maybe her and Roxanne Perez wouldn't get along right away because of how Perez entered the Judgment Day, trying to kind of win over Dominic Mysterio, which we know is Liv Morgan's man. So I know Liv Morgan is very divisive as a character, as a wrestler. There are a lot of people who really like her. There are a lot of people who really don't like her. So based on your reaction, it appears you are one who really likes Liv Morgan. But talk about her win, what that means, and where you think she ends up headed and who she ends up facing at WrestleMania this year.
I have to say, this is one of the most gratifying wins for a Women's Royal Rumble I have seen in a long time. I thought I was happy when Bayley won 2 years ago, but this was next level. I've been following Liv Morgan ever since she was in the Riot Squad, and they first came to the main roster back in 2017. And funny enough, in the very first Women's Royal Rumble in 2018, she was the first person eliminated, and now 8 years later, she goes on to win it. Yeah, it was very gratifying. I was very happy when she won. I did pick Bianca to win, but I said that if Bianca didn't show up, then Liv Morgan would win, and I'm happy that I got it right. And as far as who she faces at WrestleMania, I think after what happened tonight with the elimination of Raquel Rodriguez, I think we got our answers. So I would say expect the title change possibly as soon as this Monday on Raw.
Wow. Okay. Ian in the chat said didn't have any problem with the Rumble winners this year. We'll get to Roman Reigns and see if you have the same enthusiasm about Roman Reigns that you have about Liv Morgan winning. The Women's Rumble, not a ton of huge surprises. Brie Bella, probably the biggest surprise coming back. I know she had been hesitant to come back because of the weird feelings that might exist since her husband, Bryan Danielson, works for AEW. But what did you think of the Women's Rumble overall? I thought it really showed the depth. When you go back and you look at the really early Women's Rumbles, they relied heavily on women from the past, the Michelle McCools, folks like that, because they didn't have the depth in the women's division, and they didn't yet have the depth in NXT that they do now. I think it's really cool to see today them being able to not rely on stars of the past so much. Yeah, they'll sprinkle them in here and there, just like they do for the men. But to be able to see the Women's Rumble stand on its own based on the active wrestlers on the main roster and in NXT, it's really cool to see.
Yeah, I thought the Women's Rumble got really good towards the end. The first half of it had its moments, but it kind of felt like it dragged. And just the fact that they didn't have even more than 15 eliminations by the time number 30 came out, that was kind of not the best thing for it. But then as the eliminations started happening in the last few minutes, it got better. And wow, did Lash Legend and Sol Ruka really shine in this Rumble match?
Yes.
Ooh. Yep. You could tell he had big plans for both of them in the next few months. But yeah, they both look great here. Obviously, Liv Morgan looked great in her victory. And Raquel Rodriguez also looked very strong. So yeah, overall, even though like it kind of dragged in certain parts, I think the Women's Rumble delivered, especially in the finish. And yeah, one of the better ones they've done, to be honest with you. And they didn't really need a lot of surprises. They didn't really need a lot of women from the past. It would have been nice if maybe 2 more would have been in the Rumble, but I didn't really miss it too much, to be honest.
Sadler in the chat, and I threw up his thoughts on the screen there, thought that the Women's Rumble was better than the men's. And this is a comparison we go through every year, which one was better. I tend to disagree. I thought the men's was a little better. But what did you think? Was it the women or was it the men's that was better?
The women's one had a more satisfying winner, but the men's from top to bottom was a better Rumble match.
Yeah. I agree. I think, like I said, good signs in the depth. I'm super happy that you brought up Lash Legend and Sol Ruca, because my takeaway, or one of my takeaways from this Women's Royal Rumble match was, wow, Sol Ruca and Lash Legend really had an opportunity to shine. Lash Legend already on the main roster, teaming with Nia Jax. Sol Ruca still in NXT, though she's made some appearances on the main roster. And so I thought giving the younger talent like that a big stage and a big opportunity to shine, I thought was really smart of WWE. And just like you, they were the two that stood out to me as the ones who really benefited from being in this Royal Rumble, maybe more so than any of the other. There was Kalani Jordan in there as well. There were some other folks. Jordan Grace, new to the main roster, has mostly been in NXT. But I thought those two were the ones who impressed the most. Was there anyone else that jumped out to you from the Women's Rumble in terms of, wow, they really came out of that match looking better than they went in?
Charlotte Flair. I thought Charlotte Flair had a good performance, even though she didn't obviously make it to the end, but I thought she also looked good in it. But yes, I would say those two would be the main two, that being Lash Legend and Sol Ruca. Those are definitely career-defining performances for both of them, and I expect them both to have a big year this year. And as far as the men's goes, in the men's, Javon Evans and Obafemi really shined.
Yeah.
It was really gratifying to see how well they did, especially Javon Evans. He was in there for, 40 minutes?
Yeah, he got a real opportunity in that match. Derek in the chat said, Greg, I understand what you're saying. There was a reliance with older generation stars and didn't need those stars because you don't need to fly them to Saudi if you have an abundance of talent. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a lot easier to get talent you have under contract and twist their arm if you need to fly them to Saudi Arabia, as opposed to, someone you don't have under contract or is under a Legends contract, or, just it for a one-off. I think it's a lot harder to kind of bring them to Saudi Arabia. With Brie, at least she's got her twin sister there with her, Nikki. So that may have made it a little more palatable for her. But I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just underestimating the desire for the previous generation of wrestlers to be on screen and be in a big prominent position one more time, even if it leads to nothing. But I would have a hard time personally flying all the way to Saudi Arabia for, a Royal Rumble cameo, I guess.
Yeah, I get it. I wouldn't want to go there, period, with or without the cameo. Yeah, there was a little bit of a weird feeling with the whole vibe of it being in Saudi Arabia for like one of their major shows, but at least the show was still delivered. The show was 10 times better than Survivor Series was, 10 times better than WrestlePalooza was. So ESPN can now be happy with WWE as far as some of the PLEs they've been putting on with this outing. It was definitely one of the stronger ones. And from what we saw in the Women's Rumble match, we're probably going to get a feud between the Bellas and Bayley and Lyra because of the fact that the Bellas eliminated both of them simultaneously. And then I think it's going to be Splitsville for Charlotte and Alexa Bliss. That's also inevitable.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that was one of my criticisms of the Women's Rumble, is that you had 3 eliminations that were either purposeful or not, one partner eliminating another. You had Charlotte and Alexa Bliss very early on. You had Kairi Sane and Asuka, and then you had the other one. So was that problematic for you? I just kind of found it a little too much repetition there.
No, it's fine. I mean, with the Royal Rumble, it's every woman for themselves. And also they've kind of been teasing dissension between these teams for weeks already. So you knew it was going to play out sooner than later, and no better place for it to play out than the Rumble match. So I have no problem with it. It sets up some possible angles for WrestleMania. I've been saying Asuka and Kairi could be a WrestleMania match in my Raw reviews for the last 3 months. So it looks like they're possibly going in that direction. Yeah, it was very well done in both cases. I got no complaints.
Going back to Liv Morgan, Paul said something interesting in the chat that I want to throw to you on, because I know you're a big supporter of Liv Morgan. I'm not sure how much of her you saw in NXT, but he said Morgan was not good in NXT. She has improved immensely. Do you agree with that assessment if you saw her in NXT? And just talk a little bit about what you've seen from her in terms of her improvement over the years to lead her to this spot where she is now the 2026 Royal Rumble winner.
Well, I never really got to see enough of her work in NXT. I just saw like small little clips of it. But then when she was in the Riot Squad, I just noticed that she had like really good facial expressions, and with the pink hair, she kind of also stood out. And yeah, I thought she had like solid performances throughout that run too. But then I would say after the Lana and Rusev and Bobby Lashley fiasco, like after that died out and she got to like show more of, you know, what she could do and shine more, that's when I started to see that she had potential and that she could eventually be a champion. And I know she eventually got the Money in the Bank and won the title the same night when she beat Ronda Rousey. But that feud and also that title reign wasn't really anything to write home about or get excited about. And then she kind of had her thing going on for a little while longer with the team with Raquel. I think that was also good for her, and she did well with that. But then obviously she really became the star that she is now with that feud with Rhea. That feud with Rhea did wonders for her. It was a career resurgence for her in a sense, and it made her basically what she is now. And I was actually concerned when she lost the title to Rhea last year of like where she would go from that point. But in all honesty, I think she's been even better ever since she lost the title. Like from her performances, her character work, her facial expressions, I think now she's the best that she's ever been. And it bummed me out when she got hurt over the summer, like right when that feud with Nikki Bella was about to start. But what I said at the time when she got injured was that she's more than likely going to win the Rumble when she gets back. And lo and behold, 6 months later, Kurt was right.
From the chat, BJ says Morgan is awesome and I liked her. She is in NXT. She is a well-deserved winner. So I agree with a lot of what you said, especially in terms of that turnaround where she really kind of put it all together with the feud with Rhea Ripley, the teaming with Raquel Rodriguez. I thought that all kind of, they were like building blocks and they helped give her confidence. I still think from an in-ring standpoint, she's a step or two behind the really top women, the Ripleys, the Bianca Belairs, the Io Skys. Sure. You know, they're in kind of that upper echelon, and then you have maybe a step or two below, you got Liv Morgan, but her character work is so good. I think it makes up for whatever is lacking in the ring. And that's a testament to her. And I do think she has improved in the ring. I'm not saying she's bad. She's just not the upper echelon that some of the women are that she faces week in and week out.
But she still holds her own with them. Like, even if she's not maybe as good in the ring, she still holds her own.
Yeah, absolutely. So Women's Royal Rumble, we'll circle back to that if we get some comments in the chat. But again, if you're tuning in a little late, I am Pro Wrestling Torch columnist Greg Parks. I'm joined by PWTorch.com contributor Kurt Cadet, and this is Wrestling Night in America, the post-Royal Rumble show here on January 31st, 2026. Hope everyone is staying warm. I'm in Southwest Florida, and I'm wearing a jacket inside because it is in the low 50s right now, which some of you are going to laugh at me, but that is very cold for down here, even in January, February, and it's going to get into the mid-30s overnight, temperatures that are almost unheard of for this part of the country. But I know others in other parts of the country are suffering much worse than I am, so I do hope you're all staying warm. Want to get some plugs in here. Let's see, VIP membership, of course, for PWTorch.com. I hope many of you who are in the chat, watching live on YouTube, are PWTorch.com members. If you are not, PWTorch.com/GoVIP is where you can sign up, and you can sign up with a myriad of different options, and check out that page because it will tell you all of the great stuff you get with a VIP membership, including ad-free PWTorch.com audio shows, as it says here, access to Wade's full audio, start to finish. Wade Keller, our PW Torch editor, rundown of TV shows, segment by segment analysis on the Wade Keller hotline. You get that. That is all ad free. And don't forget to join Wade here. You know, we have the post show here for the pay-per-views, as we do with every pay-per-view, but we also have post shows for the big shows. Monday nights, Wednesday nights, Monday after Raw, Wednesday after Dynamite, Friday after SmackDown as well. Wade is hosting with a PWTorch.com contributor as co-host. So don't forget to join in then. And of course, be a part of the show. we love hearing from you. We love your takes on things. We love jumping off from your ideas and your thoughts, and disagreement is welcome. So if you're watching us live and you're in the chat, please participate. Give your thoughts on the Rumble itself, on the matches that we're talking about. We'll throw your comments up on the screen. If you're listening to us afterward and you're not listening live, consider after the next pay-per-view joining us live so you can be a part of the show. Always like that audience interaction portion of the show. So, Kurt, let's move on to the next match, which was AJ Styles putting his career on the line against Gunther, who had already retired Goldberg and John Cena. And after a spirited bout, Gunther ends up retiring AJ Styles. Styles passes out rather than submits. 25 minutes or so of this match. Kurt, I had talked myself into Styles winning, especially because there was no title on the line. I think it was easier to have him win. You know, he said he wanted to retire this year. At the first pay-per-view seemed way early to me, so I'm thinking, okay, you know, this is all going to work out. Styles is going to win. And then we get the news that he trademarks some of his stuff. And it's like, would he be doing that if he wasn't planning on leaving and going somewhere else? So, you know, it was sad to see, but notably, he did not leave his boots, did not leave his gloves, even though he teased in the ring. So while this is a retirement from WWE, it appears it doesn't appear to retire in professional wrestling. So on the match itself and AJ Styles retiring here in.
I thought the match was very good. I wasn't expecting anything less from these two. It told a great story, especially towards the end in those last few minutes. And I didn't want to think that AJ Styles was going to lose, like when this match was first made official. But then once I saw that they were making him go against Nakamura randomly and then Punk randomly, and considering that the Rumble was the same event he debuted at 10 years ago, I said, yeah, he's probably done. Also considering his contract is up next month, apparently. So I just said to myself, yeah. He's probably going to lose. And then, although it was great, although they kind of kept us on our toes and kind of like had us like anticipating whether or not it would happen towards the end, unfortunately, he ended up losing. And it was a nice farewell. The fact that he didn't take his gloves off pretty much signals that he's probably going to wrestle in other places. But it was just fitting that since he debuted at the Rumble in 2016, that he retired at the Rumble in 2026. And he went out on top. He went out in a great match with a caliber performer that Gunther is. And with Gunther just retiring Cena recently, there was no way that he was going to lose that soon. So with all those factors in, I just knew that it was going to turn out the way it did, and it did that way. So now that Gunther's retired AJ on top of that, I just asked myself, who is next?
Yeah, the thing you mentioned as well, the contract expiring, I think that news broke recently as well, and that was like, okay, so he is going to lose here. You know, another hide on the wall, I suppose, for Gunther in beating AJ Styles. I think this does a lot for Gunther for sure. You know, and we got a comment in the chat. Not a fan of the sleeper as applied by Gunther. So, you know, John Cena catching some flack for the way he applies his submission moves. Gunther the same here in the chat. Last person I would have thought would be catching strays about how he applies submission moves, but here we are. I thought the match was really good. I thought that the last few minutes, especially when Styles was trying to break out of the move, I thought was really well done. That just all seemed very fitting and seemed to do very well. Are there any ideas you have? You know, there's thoughts about, okay, does AJ Styles go to Japan? Does he go to AEW? Does he go to TNA? Where he obviously has a long history. Do you have a kind of maybe he just does anything that you have about either where you think he's going to go or
I think TNA is a definite, especially with their new TV deal. I think that's a definite. He'll make a stop there at some point. Japan, more than likely too. As far as AEW goes, I don't want to say it won't happen, but I wouldn't count on it.
Yeah, I mean, I there are a lot of options. I think AEW would really love to have AJ Styles. Whether or not that's something he's interested in, I have to imagine that there are wrestlers in that company that he would love to wrestle. Does he just go to TNA? I mean, maybe he does one match in TNA. I don't see him really having an extended run in TNA. Quite frankly, the roster is not deep enough, I don't think, to see him having a ton of really intriguing matches there. I do think he might have one just to kind of put a cap on that part of his career. I think AEW is a pretty strong possibility. Maybe not as a full timer. Maybe he comes in like an Adam Copeland and wrestles for a couple months and then takes a couple months off, something like that. I think he's certainly earned that opportunity. So yeah, for sure, he's not done. This, like I said, this is not a retirement from wrestling, but I certainly see it as a retirement from WWE more than anything else. Any other thoughts on that match before we move on, Kurt?
No, I thought the match delivered. Basically the outcome I expected. And yeah, it was probably the match with the best build going into it, considering how poor the build was as a whole for the show. So overall, as far as what I was expecting, I wasn't mad. I was satisfied. It's sad to see AJ go, but he had a great run. He had a great 10-year run in WWE. A lot of people probably didn't even expect him to have the great run that he did when he first got there. And yeah, he was one of the great success stories of people who came from the independents to WWE and really had a great career for themselves. So yeah, he has nothing else to look back on. He had a great run, and now it's time for him to move on to the next phase of his life.
Yeah, really good point. Yeah, AJ Styles, when he went to WWE, I don't think anyone saw him having this level of a career. He was small. He didn't fit certainly what Vince McMahon thought of main event talent, and he had a tremendous run. So props to him for all of that. I thought he really did well to survive as well as he did in WWE for as long as he has. I mean, he's made a decade out of it, and that's impressive. Usually we solicit on these shows live callers from people who were there who can give a live perspective. We don't have that, obviously, but we do have a special guest on standby, waiting to be added, a surprise even to me, and that is PWTorch columnist Sean Radican. Sean, welcome to Wrestling Night in America tonight, man.
Hey, how are you?
We're doing well. How are you?
Good. I promised the boss I'd call in for a little bit.
All right, we got our trios tag team here, Sean. Wonderful to talk to you here. We've already covered the Women's Rumble and AJ Styles versus Gunther, but real quick, give me your thoughts on those two right away.
The Women's Rumble, I was a little surprised at how much the biggest names were kept away from the finish of the match. That surprised me the most. I have a list right. Becky, Charlotte, Asuka, Io Sky, Ripley, none of them came down. I don't think any of them came down in the final. They left it with the final three, I believe it was. So that kind of puzzled me because one of their biggest stars is Rhea Ripley, and they just keep pushing her out to the periphery, and I'm not sure exactly. I mean, they have a lot of time between now and WrestleMania to. They seem to. The Royal Rumble used to be kind of like the final stage where you get an idea what the main event picture was, but they changed so much now that it's, anything can change, but it was weird seeing the final three without any of those people in it. The match itself was, I thought it was all right. It had some good moments in it, but it wasn't anything like, I just, they just, the stuff like, Natalia and Becky being, the heels feuding with heels. It's like, the fan service aspect of the show kind of sucked, to be honest. I just don't get it. I just don't, you want to give something like that. like the last three results, depending on how you feel about, I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but if you like put it together as a package, like the results of the show are like kind of a downer. If you've got some Roman Reigns fatigue, it's like, what do you know, even my friends that never say it, you know, that like don't say anything to me about wrestling, like, you know, the text messages come in after the Rumble and the WrestleMania, this sucks, you know?
Yeah. That was a comment I made on social media. I'm like, it was a heel heavy show. You got Liv Morgan winning the Women's Rumble. You got AJ Styles losing and getting kicked off into retirement. And, you know, you had Drew McIntyre, and we'll talk more about this in a moment, but Drew McIntyre not only beat Sami Zayn, but basically dog walked Sami Zayn. I mean, Zayn was treated as not nearly on Drew McIntyre's level. And then, you know, you got Roman Reigns, who, you know, people have their opinions on Roman Reigns. He's a babyface, but I think in terms of getting people inspired and interested in WrestleMania, I'm not sure Roman Reigns being in the main event once again is going to do that for a lot of people, although he has won over his fair share of detractors that he had at one time. The one thing I want to mention that you brought up, Sean, and I want to throw this to Kurt to get his opinion on it. Becky Lynch, she was in the match for a very short amount of time, eliminated relatively unceremoniously by Natty of all people. What did you make of Becky Lynch's performance in there?
Well, yeah, it was weird that she got eliminated so fast. I thought that she was going to have some kind of confrontation with AJ Lee, but AJ Lee never showed up. And yeah, just for her to randomly get eliminated by Natty, yeah, that was very odd. But just the vibe I got from it is that I guess they're going to feud for a few weeks. So I guess that is what it is. And I guess maybe they'll have a three-way feud with Maxine added into it. But yeah, Becky getting eliminated as early as she did was kind of strange. That was a disappointment for me. And also the other disappointment was the fact that Bianca never showed up. I was really hoping that she would come back tonight, but considering that she didn't, I guess that injury is a lot worse than everybody thought.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was strange. But, you know, I guess when you got 30 wrestlers, you're going to have some odd eliminations in there every once in a while, I suppose. So maybe we can't write it off as much more than that. Sean,
I did want to mention Lash Legend. Eliminates Lynch, the Bella Twins, Charlotte, and Sky, and Io Sky, and barely any, I thought, reinforcement on commentary over what was her best night in the ring for them so far. Probably she's never stood out to me before in any meaningful way and had any meaningful impact that I've liked it on this level, you know. She's just never stood out, you know, with Nia Jax or anything like that. And I thought tonight she was, you know, with that chance to have that spotlight on her, she looked really good, but I don't like, they never, is that going to lead anywhere for her? I never got the thought. I got the, you know, I just felt like the eliminations that should mean that they could have hammered home on didn't end up being really anything meaningful in the end.
And that was one of the takeaways when we talked about this match earlier. Kurt and I both said, you know, Lash Legend and Sol Ruca to us were maybe not the surprises, but the standouts from a crop of people that maybe you didn't think was going to stand out in that way. So we both saw those two as bigger stars coming out of this based on their performance than going in. Now, to your point, what happens in the aftermath? You know, do they capitalize on it? Do they just put Lash back in a tag team with Nia Jax and have her do their thing? What happens to Sol Ruca? Does that lead to a promotion to the main roster full time? Remains to be seen. But those two to us were kind of the standouts. Sean, did you have anybody else that really stood out in your mind from that Women's Rumble?
Just very briefly, I had it right here somewhere. Kalani Jordan, briefly, when she was in late in the match, looked pretty good for what she, you know, for the time she had in there.
Yeah.
Not on the level of the other two you mentioned, though. But I thought they, you know, for being thrown in the match and not having any expectations, I thought those women acquitted themselves quite well in terms of surprising me with not that they're bad or anything necessarily, but they just, I haven't seen them have a chance to really shine before in this environment with the, you know, the being able to take care of or you know, eliminate people or
it's almost more than
people at once. You can
the
really
booking
showcase
of them surprised you as opposed
You froze on me, Greg. Are you there?
Oh, I'm here.
You
I
froze
know
on me.
my
Okay.
my internet's not happy with all the bandwidth we're using it today, I guess.
Oh,
So,
gee.
very tag team focused in the women's division, says Pile Driver Pete. Kurt, I want to get your take on that. I mean, do you agree with that? Is that a positive in your mind, or are some of these women like Lash Legend being underutilized now, being in the tag division?
I've been saying this in my Raw reviews for the last 2 months. The women's tag team division is more relevant than the women's world title division, and more relevant than the men's tag team division for that matter. I kind of feel like that's been that way like pretty much since the latter part of the year. They just have a lot of like star power teams in the women's division right now, from Rhea and Io, Liv and Roxanne. Technically, you also have Charlotte and Alexa. I don't know for how much longer, but they're still together. We also have Bayley and Lyra. Now we have the Bellas back together. We also have Lash and Nia Jax. That'll probably break up at some point, but for now they're still together too. And Asuka and Kyrie for the time being also. So yeah, their women's division, as far as the tag teams go, has been stacked the last 6 months. And I've really personally enjoyed it. It's made those titles like really feel relevant in a way that the men's world tag team titles don't feel relevant on either show. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Sean, what's your take on Liv Morgan and what she's going to be doing at WrestleMania, who she's going to be facing?
You know, I like her as a character. She's entered, you know, she's really got a great personality. She popped up unexpectedly in the I was in a virtual press conference for WWE 2K26, and they popped her in randomly, and she's just got a way about it that, you know, makes you want to like her, even though she's, you know what I mean, even though she's a heel.
Mm-hmm.
But she's just like, you know, when it comes to getting it done in the ring, it seems like she's got a certain ceiling. And I had this in my notes that she won the match, but, you know, all those other women I listed are really far above her in terms of in-ring work. I feel when they, you know, I just feel like she's just a step in terms of in-ring work. She's a step below the best women on the roster, but as a character, she's right up, like, in terms of her persona and the way she carries herself in the ring. But her matches just don't seem to deliver at a level that the other, the other 5 or 6 women I listed that got eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like for her match at WrestleMania, I'm excited for the, to see, like, does it cause dissension in the Judgment Day? You know, who does she face?
Mm-hmm.
Which women does she choose? She was on the post-show panel, and she kind of pushed off the question, but she didn't seem, too thrilled about going after Jade for her title. So
yeah,
I guess they're going to play the wait and see what happens with how the other title picture shakes out with Raquel Rodriguez gets her opportunity first, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess she was kind of coy about it on the post-show panel, but she definitely I'd be surprised just to. I think the better matchup with her is for someone that can, make her sell for the duration of the match, pretty much. Yeah. And Jade Cargill isn't a great choice because if it's her doing that, it's a much bigger woman pummeling a smaller woman, which isn't the most exciting idea. But a more technical, I think someone with a more technical based, background as champion, taking her on, or even maybe the Raquel versus, kind of like a civil war within Judgment Day type of thing might be interesting. But I don't have a lot of interest in seeing her face Jade for sure, but I'm interested to see what shakes out on the other side.
Yeah, you have to imagine. We'll get to that comment in a second. Derek in the chat says Lash has always looked her best in tag matches and multi-person matches. Still struggles in singles matches. Still very green. Still very raw. Not a surprise there. And then this from Derek. Liv is facing Raquel because Raquel is going to win the title this Monday from Stephanie Vaquer to set up a Judgment Day match at WrestleMania for the women's title. I mean, that's what makes the most sense. Stephanie hobbled. She's got an injury. Raquel, right. You could absolutely see her taking advantage of that tomorrow night on Raw and for whatever reason. Not very difficult to come up with a reason, I don't think, at this point, given their history, given how long they've been together, for Liv Morgan to face Raquel Rodriguez. Kurt, is that kind of how you see things playing out?
I would say so, because they've been teasing dissension between Raquel and Liv for the last month or so. And Raquel kind of jumped her in line to get a title shot initially in the first place. And after she eliminated Raquel tonight, I kind of just said to myself, yep, they're going to face each other at WrestleMania. So I would expect a title change this Monday on Raw. I like Stephanie Vaquera, but I feel like story-wise, this is the best place for the Women's World title going into WrestleMania. And I'm personally looking forward to it. Like I said, I think, for one, Raquel has gotten a lot better over the last year after that whole rant that Kevin Nash went on about her. And I'm going to have to disagree with you guys. I think Liv has also improved in the ring. Ever since she lost the title last year, I've noticed her matches have been progressively better, from like the matches with Io Sky, the tag matches she would have with Raquel. Yeah, I found myself really liking her matches. And I feel like on a stage like WrestleMania to really shine, I think she's going to deliver.
All right. So there's a comment in the chat, and of course, we're not watching the post show right now, but somebody said the Saudi fans are chanting Y2J at Paul Levesque on the post show. So even going to Saudi Arabia, he can't escape the smart fans following him wherever he goes.
I have it on,
and giving him the business. Speaking of, let's pause, because a big story obviously was the Royal Rumble, one of WWE's prestige events taking place in Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of discussion online about the speed in which this arena was built and who may have built it. And, the crowd, I think most people during the Women's Rumble were trying to figure out whether the crowd was empty or whether it was full, because it was really, with the way it was lit and the way that the seats were, it was really hard to tell. I think in the end, it was probably more full than not. I thought it was, at least to me, and I've heard other opinions on this, but I thought it was a very active crowd, a very vocal crowd. When WWE first started going to Saudi Arabia, the crowds were not anything to write home about. They didn't seem all that interested. It always seemed to be like the royal family and their extended family, which
against their will, almost like
yeah. That was kind of the joke at the time.
I've joked with people about the change. It's like it comes across like the best, some of the best U.S. or foreign crowds when the atmosphere, you know what I mean, in terms of just being hot and into things and chanting and so forth. And they even had opinions about Cody. They even started forming opinions on SmackDown last night, which I thought was interesting, about when Cody teased winning the Rumble, and they started chanting.
Yeah,
but I thought I was seeing things tonight. I even texted Wade. I said, "Are those all empty seats?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh my God!" I said, because it looked like, beyond like the bowl on the floor, once they panned up, it looked like they were just intermittent people sitting in the upper decks of all across. You could see as far as it just looked like. It looked like like the really big version of an indie gone bad, like when they try to run a place too big.
Yeah, the dying days of the territories or something like that, where they'd be renting out a huge building. But yeah, I thought the fans, they were knowledgeable too. Like they seemed to know who Obafemi was coming out. They seemed to know who some of the NXT wrestlers.
There were reports that like singing everyone's theme. I was just following some people around on, there's an influencer that flew all the way over there, and he's talking about how they sing like every person's song and stuff like that. He was going around to the fan fest and stuff, and they are super into it. It doesn't seem like a put on either. It seems like they're, you know what I mean? Yeah. It seems like they're super into the product, and they, you know, these fan fest activities. They had the store and all this. I don't know. There's like a big WWE amusement park they had set up with, all sorts of logos and stuff to, that were just, hanging around in this area. But it's like the people seemed really that I did see seemed really into it.
Yeah, for sure. Kurt, your take on the crowd tonight?
I thought the crowd was pretty good for the most part. I feel like maybe in the Women's Rumble they weren't as lively, but they got better as the night went on, especially towards the end. I didn't like the fact that they were bringing one of their major shows to Saudi Arabia, but the crowd for the most part held up, so I can't complain about that. But still, even with that aside, I hope they don't continue to bring their major shows to Saudi in the future. Although WrestleMania next year is inevitable, I just hope after that they don't do this anymore, because it kind of showed in the way they did the build up for the show.
Yeah, it's like, oh, by the way, we're running in Saudi again.
Yeah, it's wishful thinking to think that none of the big shows after WrestleMania are going to be in Saudi Arabia, but that certainly doesn't seem to be the direction WWE is headed.
I hope it's not. If they do continue to do it, I hope it's not, more than one big show a year, because I don't like watching these big shows on these. I've never liked watching these shows in Saudi Arabia, but especially if it's a Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, please at least spare me that.
I mean, they did the biggest Royal Rumble ever in Saudi Arabia a couple of years ago, but that was kind of a fake Royal Rumble. I don't think we count that.
Yeah,
I want to forget that show ever happened.
For those who are only listening audio, Kurt was giving the thumbs down on that one when I mentioned that. So
yeah, I'll say this: at least those Saudi shows have gotten better since then. Because I remember those shows in the early years were unwatchable.
They were terrible. Yeah, they have got. Garbage. I won't say they're unwatchable anymore. I hate that they go there. That's my thing. Especially the whole optics of it is just really bad.
Everything around it is.
And people forget, nothing gets reported on them on a scale where it's going to make it, where they would change their minds, because they're just not on the radar enough to be critiqued at any level on a national scale. So this is what we get.
Yeah, I went to Raw in Brooklyn, the Stranger Things Raw, and every time they showed the Riyadh Saudi Arabia logo, the audience booed. I think Saudi had the most heat the whole night besides Gunther.
I think Greg froze again.
Booing of the mentions of Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I'm here. It'll cycle through. Don't worry. I'm sensing a routine with how it works, so I'm trying to get used to it. Derek in the chat says the only wrestler the crowd did not seem to know was Powerhouse Hobbs. I thought they didn't know La Parka either. So while they know WWE and they know NXT, they didn't seem to know AAA or AEW. So I guess that's their blind spot for professional wrestling over there. So, Sean, I do want to get your take. Kurt and I talked about the AJ Styles Gunther match. I know you were on backstage while we were talking about that, so you probably heard a lot of what we talked about. But go ahead and add your thoughts to that match, Styles versus Gunther.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I mean, just the Gunther was brutal in the end with those strikes and kind of just stalking his prey type of attack during the match, and then just really laying it in at the end, while at the same time they gave Styles a fair amount of offense with the setting up his calf cutter. He had one last burst late. I mean, it was I thought it was a really good match. I liked it. The post match stuff kind of took me a little bit by surprise, with him, putting down the gloves and so forth and picking them back up. So that, I heard you guys talk about it. So, pretty much signals that he's, good. I heard you guys, you mentioned the trademarks he filed and everything. So now I'm not going to be surprised to see him continue wrestling, going forward, whether it be in TNA or AEW or Japan or whatever. But, man, I hope he does continue, because it made me very sad to think of him retiring while still performing at such a high level in the ring, because he is one of the guys that really pulled me back into wrestling when I was hating it in the early 2000s, when I found TNA and Ring of Honor and so forth, and would just watch TNA, well, pretty much because I watch everything, but just primarily enjoyed watching AJ, and then all those Ring of Honor, that his series of matches with Paul London and his matches with Red and tagging with Amazing Red, and seeing him not only shed being an indie wrestler, but to morph into shortly before he left TNA, kind of change his look and appearance, his character, and it could build upon that and go to Japan and become leader of the Bullet Club and just blow it away, just kill it in Japan and Ring of Honor on a part, taking some dates in Ring of Honor again as well here and there during that time. But, just do it, just mostly that, really short but good run in Japan, and then a 10-year, like you guys said, a 10-year run in WWE that, a couple, championship reigns, and it just incredible capper to his career for someone that was, he was like the great hope of the TNA, which has been such a failure, and for him to be like the poster boy of that promotion and go to WWE and do so well, and just to see him adapt his character and change his look in it, like I said, it's amazing because if you look at the old pictures of him, there were a lot of indie wrestlers that looked like him, but he was spectacular. But he's really kind of just done so much to make himself like come across like a star. So I have enjoyed him. They've kind of de-emphasized him over the last few years a little bit until they brought him back around. Not de-emphasized, but he hasn't been really in the world title picture a lot. But I think he still has a lot to offer. And he'll probably continue to wrestle. He just it's throwing me off. These guys that seen this, there's NXT rookies as old as John Cena right now. I'm just
yeah, I know.
I'm just kidding, but there's there's guys coming in at 38, 39.
Yeah,
and I get it.
Crazy.
But to see guys retiring when they're still so good, I thought Cena was doing pretty damn good by the end of his, with limited dates. He was still pretty damn good at the end of his tour. Had some, great matches to close it out after a rough start. But, just maybe a fresh start is good for Styles at this point too. He's, I think he's done about, done it all in WWE kind of, and you don't know what more they could do it, with guys like him. It's kind of, maybe I think you guys kind of hit it on the, the nail on the head, because you saw, they didn't do a retirement angle, but Edge had a last match, so to speak, and went off. And I think that's what we'll see with Styles. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him pop up in a bunch of different places. I'm not I just I'm excited to see what's next for him, because I'm kind of have some hope now that he's going to stick around.
It looks like Azan in the chat is the only one who doesn't believe AJ is going to continue. He says AJ is done, so we'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
So just moving on, yeah.
It'd be awfully weird if he picked up the gloves to just,
to retire anyway, right? Like, if you're gonna retire, why not leave him in the ring?
I mean, if Undertaker's gonna leave his boots, his hat, and his jacket, I mean, if you're AJ, you're gonna do it. If Cena's gonna do it, I mean.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to the title match, Sami Zayn against Drew McIntyre. A lot of excitement around Sami Zayn. One of the last shows that they did was in Montreal, and of course he got a big reaction there. Gets a big reaction here in Saudi Arabia, and ends up losing to Drew McIntyre in short order. It was not a long match. It was 16 minutes. So it was 16 minutes of Drew McIntyre beating up Sami Zayn, basically. Interesting that they positioned it that way, I thought. Kurt, what was your take on the match? Did you think it was too much of Sami Zayn selling? Do you think he should have gotten a little bit closer to winning? Or do you think, this more than anything helped Drew McIntyre kind of reposition himself as the top heel?
I think the latter. I think it definitely established Drew as a strong champion. I thought Sammy had a couple hope spots here and there. I thought he looked strong towards the end, but ultimately, considering that Drew just won the title 3 weeks ago, we all knew how this was going to end, and it ended exactly the way it was supposed to, with Drew McIntyre retaining. And I sincerely hope, with the way things are looking now, that he holds the title up until WrestleMania. But still an enjoyable match. I thought it was, fine for what it was. Like I said, the outcome was never in doubt. There wasn't much of a build to this match in the first place. But overall, I feel like it was fine for what it was, and yeah, it served its purpose.
Yeah, Sean, same question to you. What did you think of Sami Zayn, Drew McIntyre?
Yeah, I mean, they this is like the worst version of the Sammy story, where he's built up for something and comes up short. And in this case, it was pretty one-sided, with the exception of a couple comebacks. I mean, if you think Sammy's going to win, then I don't know what to tell you at this point. I don't think he's ever going to win one unless something, I don't know. But this is.
I think he wins one. I think he wins one at some point.
Eventually he will.
Yeah,
I hope so one day. But I want it to happen. But these teases, he's doing the sit-down interviews, and I'm in my second. He can't win in his first home, so he's going to win in his second home, and we're all pulling for you, Sammy, and he just gets pummeled pretty much. And yeah. I thought it was great for Drew, because I've been thinking, this could be another transitional, if Drew has a transitional run, I mean, what are they going to do with him? Because I think he needs to solidify himself as someone that's a threat as champion. And I think this match did a good job in doing that. He looked really, just dominant, and he comes across as a smart heel. Just fast forward to what he did in the Rumble too, which is just very smart. He takes care of Cody later in the night. I just thought it was a really good night for Drew, and that's what he needs, because there's been something keeping him underneath that top level of guys that's been missing. Partially due to the booking, and partially due to, he's not those other guys necessarily with his persona, but I feel like he's getting better as champion, and I feel like he's onto something, but I just don't know how long they're going to ride with him. I'm just until they, one of the other top guys needs the belt back for some, but I think here they're invested in whatever story's going on based on the reports out there that, they push for Cody pushed for this behind the scenes and wanted this to happen. So I'm hoping that, with that, the idea is to get Drew more over. And I think they, like I said, I think they did a really good job of doing that. And it was just, on the other hand, after AJ lost the match,
it was a bummer.
It was a bummer to see you had two guys that are beloved by fans, and just as fan service on a big show, that kind of sucks. I get you. I get you. You have to do what you want to do what you do, but man, it's just there hasn't been. They've done this a lot of times. I've been on in the past with on with Wade and other people after shows, and they like the heels just win all the we'll get these PLEs, and the heels just go over on the faces, and it's just, it doesn't, especially when there's so few matches, it's not that fun of an experience to watch that type of booking unfold. But on the other hand, it definitely worked for Drew, I think, and I really like what Drew's doing right now. But it's just the way the fit of the card. It just it was not the most fun night if you're a fan of the good guys. At least on the first three matches,
for sure. And I think the consensus in the chat has been that Sam and I think I'm paused again.
I can hear you.
Let's see. Am I back? Okay.
Yeah, you're back, but slow a little bit.
All right, good. I was saying, I think the consensus. Okay, Well, that's me. I don't know what to do. The consensus in the chat is Sami Zayn is going to win a championship at some point. That seems to be what most people in the chat believe. I tend to agree with that. I think at some point it will happen, but we'll see. It's by no means a guarantee, and I do think it's a good way to look at this. You have Drew McIntyre, who is probably going to be doing something. He's the champion right now. He's going to be doing something prominent at WrestleMania. This is the road to WrestleMania. Why not start that build here and put him over as a dominant champion over a guy that a lot of people like? And I think when you look at it from that point of view, it makes sense. But if you look at it from the point of view that Sean mentioned about, its place on the card, coming off an AJ Styles loss, a decimation of a very popular character that people are going to be unhappy with, it really depends on what side you look at, I think, as to how you're feeling about this. Absolutely. Kurt, any other? Yeah.
Sorry, I just like the 4-match cards. I mean, where else do you put these?
I know. There's not a lot of movement you could have done.
The show lasted like an eternity too, so it wasn't
4 hours.
Kurt, any other thoughts about this match or Drew McIntyre, what he might be doing at WrestleMania before we move on to the main event?
I think we got our answer for what Drew McIntyre will likely be doing at WrestleMania from his participation in the Royal Rumble match, which we'll dive into in a few minutes. But I'm just happy that he's actually getting a legit title reign in front of fans, like the reign that he never got to have, like back during COVID. So I'm grateful for that. And from the way it's looking now, I think he is going to probably hold the title until at least WrestleMania, and I'm all here for it.
I'll just fill in. So that's a good point. I agree with that, Kurt. While Greg catches up.
All right, main event eliminating Gunther, who was a surprise opponent after beating AJ Styles earlier in the show. So Roman Reigns gets the win, eliminates Gunther. There's your send the fans home happy moment, guys, for this show. Unless you don't like Roman Reigns, and plenty of people don't, I guess. So, Kurt, throw it to you first. Thoughts on the match and Reigns winning?
I thought the Royal Rumble match for the men was a lot of fun. I thought it moved a lot quicker than the women's one did. And it was the opposite of the women's Rumble, where they had eliminations from the get-go. With Braun Breaker, who I picked initially to win, was the first man eliminated, barely lasted 30 seconds. Yeah, I did not see that coming at all. But considering how that played out, I think we know what direction he's going in for WrestleMania. And as far as Roman goes, pretty much ever since I heard what he said yesterday about how like the creative has been bad ever since he lost the championship 2 years ago, and how like none of the people around, like none of the rookies have been able to like step up ever since he's been gone, and like, wrestling less. When he said all that, I kind of figured it was going to play into him winning tonight, and it did. And I mean, sure, it would have been nice if Jacob Fatu maybe won, Braun Breaker. I was even thinking LA Knight might have had a chance when he came in. But Roman winning, I'm not mad at it. It played out a hell of a lot better here than it did in 2015 when he won. So I'll take this over that any day of the week. And yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought it played out well. And as far as who he faces at WrestleMania, I would love to see finally one-on-one Roman versus CM Punk.
And Sean, thoughts on the Rumble and Roman Reigns win?
Yeah, I like this quite a bit more than the women's match. I thought it was exciting. You had that unexpected Braun Breaker right off the bat. You had the attack on Braun Breaker with the guy in the black sweatsuit and mask and the foot stomp. So they're keeping that idea of Rollins alive in the background. His return timetable is right around WrestleMania season. So that's I'm sure there's going to be a match or something at WrestleMania where if he can come back, he'll definitely be in the Vision's business. Not the best night for the Vision tonight, but Obi Femi looked good. I thought. I think he eliminated like 5 guys right away. And he had I think he had the Iron Man too. He was in there for about 39 minutes. Powerhouse. I thought that them. I don't know why they did the Powerhouse Hobb entrance on the Tron before they brought up the Keys name. and I thought he looked good. I don't think it didn't seem like I guess they don't get AEW in Saudi, or I don't know, but he didn't get too much of a reaction. But I'm excited to. I was excited to see what he's going to do in WWE, because I think just from a size wise, he's just an odd fit for the AEW roster. They're just full of athletic guys that aren't necessarily bodybuilder types. But I thought this was good. I thought LA Knight really looked good. I'm gonna have to grab a drink here in a second, but yeah, the Reigns thing is going to be kind of controversial.
Yeah. So one of the questions in the chat here from Goodfella is, who do we think the masked man is? And Kurt, he guesses Logan Paul. I think obviously with the way that he operated, the expectation is that we as viewers are predicting Seth Rollins. Something tells me it's not going to be Seth Rollins. Who knows? It may be. They may be faking out the fake. But who, if not Seth Rollins, who do you think that masked man could be that took out Braun Breaker at the beginning?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think logically Rollins is the only good choice, because obviously they attacked him a few months ago. They put him out. He had to forfeit the title. So yeah, who other than Rollins would be someone who would have a motive to attack Breaker the way that Breaker got attacked tonight? If it were Logan Paul, I think that would be a bit of a letdown, even though Logan Paul was campaigning hard for Braun Breaker to be the one in the group to win the Rumble. So I could see maybe why some people might think it's him, but overall, I think it was definitely Rollins. And even if that was not him tonight, who, attacked Braun Breaker, I think it's going to be revealed to be him at some point between now and WrestleMania.
Sean, same question to you. I mean, here's an interesting guess from Pile Driver Pete. Austin Theory again on behalf of Seth Rollins. So he swerves the vision. I thought that's a great move. It's already been someone other than Seth Rollins once. Would they do that again? Have it be someone other than Seth Rollins after teasing Rollins a second time, or does it have to be Seth Rollins?
I don't even know where they go all sorts of directions with it, but I've never thought like that Logan Paul was a great fit in the group. So if it is someone else, it would be I think it would fit. I think Paul's better off on his own, just with his personality. He just doesn't seem like someone that would want to be under the guidance of some. You know what I mean? He just he's brash. He's young. Doesn't not the type to take direction type of personality, and he just doesn't seem like a great fit. So I'm hoping if it's someone else, it's him and not. I mean, if you have Theory turn on them, I think I think the best place for Theory to be is kind of stashed in here, where he can do tags and work with the other guys and kind of slowly work on reinventing himself without having to put him back in singles matches.
Well, I think the idea there is Rollins is building his own army to oppose the division, and Austin Theory would be a part of that.
Yeah, just that's a lot to change. It can be done. I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just it's a lot of change it's a lot of bouncing around for Theory in a short amount of time, if that's what happens. But it could work. I mean, it could be an interesting turn on the vision to have Rollins infiltrate. That would be a very Rollins thing to do, I guess. Is the best way to put it.
One of the other things that happened during the Royal Rumble that I guess is worth pointing out is the situation with the Grande Americanos. So Chad Gable
that was
returned as
great.
the original Grande Americano to go against Ludwig Kaiser's other Grande Americano. So they were actually back-to-back entrants in the Royal Rumble match. Kurt, what did you make of that, and where do you think this story goes from here?
I thought it was entertaining. I kind of had a feeling the original El Grande Americano was going to show up tonight. And yeah, he showed up literally right after the newer version of him. And I liked how they played it off. It was entertaining. And yes, I do see a match between the two of them at some point, possibly a mask versus mask match.
Sean, same question to you. Mask versus mask. Is this how this ends up?
I think so. It's great campy fun. I like the El Grande Americano wearing the Mexican colors tonight for the Rumble. It was pretty, they're clearly having a lot of fun with this, and then having Gable come out was a fun moment. So I think you got to get that mask versus mask at WrestleMania match to settle this. But that was I thought how they handled it was just funny. The Tron comes on and Cole's just, just like anyone would be if they saw someone coming back after months being gone. Oh, it's really him, because it said the original on the Tron. It's just a funny way. I had to laugh at that just because Cole reading the Tron and like just coming to that conclusion, like as someone who's supposed to be like the voice for the audience, it was a very we could all make that assumption type of discovery.
Yes.
But I mean, yeah, for campy fun, it's been pretty entertaining.
Derek in the chat, super chat says, Brock getting eliminated by Cody and LA Knight was missed by the cameraman panning on Jey Uso's elongated entrance. It should have been a bigger moment. So yeah, the Brock Lesnar elimination was very much an afterthought. And I do wonder if that was on purpose. Like, I wonder if they kind of wanted to not emphasize that for whatever reason, but
that was weird.
It was just kind of strange timing. Usually when entrances take place, nothing happens. Like, action comes to a standstill. So Sean, anything to read into that, or is it just kind of in a 1 hour match with 30 people? Sometimes they get the timing wrong.
I have a hard time, based on WWE's educating me with Unreal, that, just with things managed down to the second and nothing, just harsh penalties with 30-second overruns and so forth. Mm-hmm. I don't think anything's on purpose. I think there's something to them I think there's a reason they did this. I don't think there's no way they'd miss this. You know what I mean? Accidentally. Other companies, I couldn't say the same thing based on their production values, but WWE is pretty spot on when it comes to calling camera shots and not missing things. And that really stood out. Like, you're watching Jey Uso do his thing and waving his arms around. And oh, by the way, Brock just got tossed out by, two huge guys in the match. And that's maybe. Yeah. Maybe it was just a way to placate Brock from being eliminated. I don't know if they had to placate him or play to him, or they want to keep him strong, even if not to placate him, but just to keep him strong, get him out of the match. But don't, if you don't mention it, people won't remember it. And I think it worked on that side. If they wanted to just get him out of the match, they didn't want him in the final four. Just have Jey Uso do a little dance in the corner while he gets tossed out, because I was surprised to see it was puzzling to see him eliminated like that in such a just like he was any lower level guy on the roster.
Kurt, this does mean that Brock Lesnar is back after all of his WrestleMania season. The rumors had been Gunther versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, but nothing was teased in that direction here. What do you think is up for Brock coming up forward?
I would say either Gunther or Obafemi. I think it would be between those two. I can't see him going for the championship, obviously, because he didn't win the Rumble. On top of that, LA Knight technically did eliminate him. Maybe they could tell a story with that, but that wouldn't really be a WrestleMania-worthy match. Me personally, I don't think so. But yeah, I will say his elimination was very uneventful and very anticlimactic. I thought he was going to attack Jey Uso and like raise hell and whatnot, kind of like how he did in the 2023 Rumble. But no, he just got eliminated, and that was that. I was kind of hoping he would attack Jey Uso after Jey Uso yeeted again in the middle of the damn Rumble match, but that didn't happen. And yeah, I don't know why they treated Brock this way. He's kind of felt like much of an afterthought ever since he came back, with the exception of the night at SummerSlam when he came back. So yeah, I don't know where this goes, and honestly, I don't really care. Yeah, I'm good with or without Brock Lesnar being around.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? We've got some comments that throughout the show I've starred, so we'll kind of wrap things up with these comments and just give our thoughts on them. The first one has to do with the result of the Rumble. Mark saying Oba should have won.
Too soon.
Way too soon.
Yeah, I mean, he got a nice push. I mean, he made his presence felt, absolutely. But to win, I thought that would have gone a little too far. I think they went far enough to establish him as a threat. He's going to be on the main roster going forward. So I didn't. Yeah,
they did briefly tease him and Brock, though, to what we were talking about a second ago, and it got broken up by an entrance, I think. So
yeah.
That was a pretty cool visual, the two of them squaring up. But
yeah,
I don't think. I mean, he needs some time in the ring before he's ready for WWE. Is in a position where they don't have to rush anybody. If they were in a panic, then they could probably look at this as an option. But they have no, with the way they're the money's coming in. I think they're all right to keep the status quo for a while and not have to go to that kind of panic button push with the Femi. I think they could take their time with him.
We talked about the standouts from the women's match. Standout from the men, according to Marcus, was Javon Evans, an absolute standout. Do you guys agree? And were there any other standouts? We talk about Lash Legend, Sol Ruca in the women's match. Anybody else stand out to you from the men's match?
I would say Obafemi.
Kurt, go to you first.
Yes, I would say Obafemi, and I would also say Javon Evans. They were both great in the Rumble match tonight. I think they both have bright futures in the company from what we saw here and what we've been seeing from them for a long time. And yeah, I have a lot of faith that they're going to be in a good place going forward. And yeah, I love that they shine as well as they did tonight. There were definitely two standouts in there as far as that went. And yeah, I look forward to seeing where they go from here.
And Sean, any other standouts for you from the men's match?
Yeah, Evans and Femi stood out. LA Knight stood out the most, coming back, as a surprise.
Yeah,
he stood out because he looked so good, and his movement around the ring. I just haven't seen him move like that in quite some time. I thought he looked really, more. I guess dynamic's the word than he has in the past. I thought his movement was much crisper and sharper. The way he was doing some kind of kip around or something before he got eliminated, but he was he looked a lot better than he has in the past. So I thought he unexpectedly stood out here. But for the younger guys, definitely even Trick had some moments. But Evans and Femi were definitely above him.
Well, Sean, you were not the only one impressed by LA Knight, because BJ said the women's Rumble was fantastic. The men's was awful. No need for Roman to win again. LA Knight should have won.
Uh-oh.
So
I'm not in that deep.
I don't think I am either. Yeah, I thought he looked energized. I thought he looked good. But yeah, LA Knight winning, I don't know that I'd go that far. I think people are just so desperate for someone new that's not Roman Reigns that we're willing to say some crazy things to get us there. That's kind of how I see it. And speaking of, I do want to see Roman and Punk, says Pile Driver Pete. That could be very interesting. We've seen Roman and Punk go at it on the mic before. They were in the triple threat match with Seth Rollins last year at WrestleMania. Kurt, is this a match that would interest you as the main event title match of WrestleMania?
Yes, it would. After their interactions last year heading into WrestleMania, I would definitely more than love to see them go one-on-one. It's a fresh match. It's one we've never seen. They're two of the biggest stars in the company. And yeah, it's a story that writes itself. I think this is the best scenario for them to do as far as the world title goes at WrestleMania. And if that's the direction they go in, and they decided as soon as this Monday on Raw, I can't wait. It already looks better than WrestleMania did last year, so that's definitely a plus.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is these are two guys who, Punk, we've seen him pull it out for big matches, but his best matches are kind of the getting that, or is it do they try to do a straight match? I'm sure with it being Roman Reigns, it's going to be a lot of bells and whistles. Sean, same question to you. Roman and Punk at WrestleMania, is that something that interests you?
Yeah, I mean, with their history, that's kind of like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
Just, even their interaction at the end of War Games, Roman says no more teaming, and they had that tension at the end. I think, was that the last time we even saw Reigns?
That was Reigns and Cody, though, not Reigns and
Oh, geez, I'm really foggy today. Okay. But yeah, they definitely don't like each other. But I did actually think they were going for Reigns and Cody at one point, but
thank God they're not.
They pivoted from that, so it's there's history. I mean, there's similar history between him and Punk and tension from their past. So I'm excited to see what that brings about.
No love for Reigns and Drew McIntyre, the biggest heel in the company against arguably the biggest babyface.
It would be a great match to watch, but I think it's going to be McIntyre, Cody, and Jacob Fatu in a 3-way.
Yeah, that does seem to be the direction. Another one thought it was odd that Lesnar got eliminated when Jey Uso was doing his entrance. Going back to Sami Zayn, JC Scooby in the chat says they botched Sami when he didn't win in Montreal over Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber a couple of years ago. I guess, we're talking about Sami Zayn and whether or not there's a title in his future. Kurt, have they missed the boat on Sami? Should they have strapped him up before? Or
I remember that time frame going into WrestleMania 39 that people were making the argument that Sami should be the one to dethrone Roman and not Cody. And I just said to myself, Sami's hot and everything right now. And that's probably the hottest he ever was that period, I guess, up until now. But I just knew deep down that Sami beating Roman and Sami being the new champion wasn't a long-term solution. So that's why I wasn't mad at it when he didn't win that night. I always knew deep down that Cody was the guy to beat Roman, and they shouldn't deviate from that. So with that being said, I don't think it was the wrong move for Roman to retain in that match.
Sean, do you see other opportunities in the past where Sami Zayn should have won the title for nothing else, so we wouldn't have this conversation right now, whether or not Sami's going to win in the future?
Not really. He's just, he's a guy that's so beloved you want to see him win, but when the opportunities come up, they don't make a lot of sense. Like Kurt said, it wouldn't make sense to have him win at the expense of Cody's coronation, and wouldn't make sense for him to win today either at the expense of the program they're building with McIntyre, for WrestleMania season. I think, it feels like I was being kind of facetious, about never winning. Anything can happen because they can build a guy up in a set. It'll feel like, they've done it in the past and they could do it again. Just, heat him up and he can win the title. It'll probably come at a time, when he keeps getting he seems to get his opportunities at the worst times of year when they're putting guys in key spots for WrestleMania, which they're not going to do with him this year.
All right. Final thoughts on the show, and maybe thumbs up, thumbs down. Kurt, Royal Rumble is now in the books. We are officially on the road to WrestleMania. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Final thoughts on the show tonight.
I'll give it a thumbs up. Considering how poor the build was going into this Royal Rumble, the fact that the show turned out the way it did was a miracle. And I have to give credit where it's due. WWE put on a great show tonight that I thoroughly enjoyed from start to finish. A hell of a lot better than that piece of crap Survivor Series was 2 months ago. And yeah, it looks like they're on the right path going into WrestleMania season. Things are slowly starting to look up in the new year, and I just hope it stays that way as we get closer and closer to Vegas.
And Sean, final thoughts on the Rumble? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
I'll give it a mild thumbs up. The booking puzzles me. Like I said, the fan service aspect. It wasn't a fun show to watch for a while, but I mean, in the bigger picture, a lot of what they did makes sense for where they're trying to go. So you have that two-edged sword. I liked a lot of ways. The matches themselves, the in-ring action was pretty good tonight, all across the board. The one, just the, we're constantly reminded that the people we watch on a regular basis matter less than the people that show up every so often. And, Gunther retires AJ, and then he's eliminating here comes Reigns and eliminates him. And it's the kind of finish that'll, drive that, fan on the edge kind of insane. And it's the finish they needed to get to WrestleMania, but why put Gunther out? I don't see a need to put Gunther out there in that match after he beat Styles. I think you invest in, he's a guy that's gotten a lot of good TV time. He's doing a lot of good. So why do we have to watch, Reigns? Why do we have to be reminded that, Reigns can come back anytime, a spear, and, out with the garbage. It's but a lot of good stuff on the show, but they're not my favorite style of booking, that's for sure. Especially, I like Reigns a lot, but man, it's if like when you watch all the TV and everything, and you're like, all right, Gunther, and the question my friends ask me the most is like, why don't they invest in any of these guys that are on, drives. I know it's probably a minority of people, but a lot of it's still a decent percentage of people are kind of sick of like the part-time guys showing, and it's basically Roman now. But just to like, why did they have to do that to Gunther? That really kind of drove me crazy at the end a little bit. And I'm by no means a Reigns hater. I think he's a great performer, and I like his matches and so forth. But I just hate how we have to, why do they have to keep making the people we watch, every week in and week out? Why they these guys disappear and they come back. They don't skip a beat, it's just, it's a little disheartening if you still waiting for the regular roster to break through. I just, I hope they get away from that a little bit in the future, because there's ways for Roman to win that match without necessarily going over someone that has so much momentum.
Yeah. All right, thumbs up for me. I thought it was a good enough show to get a thumbs up. Probably more of the mild version that Sean was talking about. But yeah, we're kicking things off on the road to WrestleMania. So as we do that, please make sure to keep it locked to PWTorch.com. Search PWTorch in your podcast app to subscribe to the Daily Cast lineup for free. New shows with different hosts every day of the week. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe to our channel on YouTube as we try to build our brand here as well. And we're always looking for new volunteers for PWTorch.com. If you have a particular niche of professional wrestling that you just love and are very knowledgeable about, or can commit to covering a show every week, please email Wade, kellerwade@gmail.com. We'd love to have you. And who knows, you could be co-hosting this show with me someday. So if that doesn't if that doesn't get you interested, I don't know what will.
Hey, Greg, I had to ask you. Greg, I had to ask you. You said you live in Southwest Florida, right? So like Miami?
Naples, other side of the state.
Oh, okay, never mind. I thought you lived in Miami.
I'm sure they're experiencing some of the same weather as we are here.
You lived in Buffalo before, right?
Well, Rochester area. So I'm
miss
certainly
the East Coast.
I live in New York.
I'm in Rhode Island.
I do not miss it this time of year. Let me tell you that. I miss it during the fall, and I miss it during the spring, because you actually have seasons. Not down here.
This weather is so cold. It's just driving me nuts.
I live in New York. It's been a rough week.
I certainly don't miss it this time of year. As we wrap things up, Kurt,
I'm sorry, what was that? You broke up.
Yeah, as we wrap up, Kurt, just go ahead and let people know what you do for the Torch and where they can find your work.
Yes, I do weekly articles for the Torch about the feuds going on Monday Night Raw, the Raw Feud Tracker. I'm doing that for over a year now, so you can find me there. I occasionally co-host the show with Wade After Raw certain weeks, and I also was doing a show called Catching the Culture with Christopher Adams, where we talk about different pro wrestling storylines and movies and how they connect with each other from the same time frame, including one episode we did recently about Starrcade 97 and the movie Titanic, because just how the Titanic hit the iceberg, Starrcade 97 is when WCW hit the iceberg and never looked back. So yeah, check out that episode among many others. And I also co-host a podcast called Clash of Champions. You can find other places, Spotify, YouTube. And yes, those are my contributions to PWTorch. And I look forward to making more as the months go on.
Sean, a man whose introduction is not needed, who's been with the Torch longer than I have, but just for those who are unfamiliar with maybe the Torch, let people know what you do for the Torch and when they can find your work.
I cover pretty much everything for the Torch now. I specialize on the probably AEW New Japan side of things, but I followed Ring of Honor in the past as well. But right now I'm doing everything. I'm posting news articles a couple times a day, and Radican Worldwide, my VIP podcast, has shifted a format to where I cover the top 4 or 5 news stories of the week, or cover 4 or 5 interesting stories that I've covered during the week or that have happened during the week, and then I have a guest at the end to focus on one big central topic. So you can check that out on Radican Worldwide, and also have this week I had Braun Breaker on. I had one of the Brauns on. It wasn't Breaker. Bronson Reed with me, talking his career in 2025 and some of his early thoughts on WWE 2K26. So I check that out. I have all sorts of guests I want to plan to have on my podcast, and I step in and co-host on here sometimes and on the VIP roundtables. So I guess it's evolved lately as New Japan's kind of sunk. I've kind of had to swim through some rough waters to find exactly what I want to be doing, but in a pretty good routine now, covering everything, I guess. But yeah, it's been a fun week with the 2K stuff. I posted some thoughts on a virtual developer Q&A that expanded upon the news and the press release. So if you're a fan of that, the 2K video game, check out that latest Radican's take I posted as well. We both, you and I, Greg, both post takes pretty much every week. So check those out. And that's about it. And I'll be posting some, a couple exclusive quotes. One's up now from the Reed interview, and I'll have another one. I have another one to go up another day, but check that out as well in the coming week.
Yeah, as Sean said, I do a Parks' Take about once a week on PWTorch.com, a shorter version of my full page column, which you can find every and you can also find me. Gentlemen, that is it for me. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight, and thanks everybody out there for listening. And until next time, we'll talk to you again after the next pay-per-view.
Take care, guys.
Wrestling Night in America on PWTorch on YouTube.
Have a good one.